Can you imagine a vast, barren desert transforming into a lush, green oasis? It sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel, right? But what if I told you this incredible transformation is actually happening in real life, and it's all thanks to a project that many people initially laughed at? Today, we're diving into the astonishing story of how China turned the tide against desertification, a story of ambition, innovation, and a little bit of what's some called madness. It all started with a seemingly bizarre idea, burying tons of plants in the middle of a desert. When China announced this plan, the world watched with skepticism. Experts and commentators from around the globe scoffed. "It's a waste of resources," they said. "The plants will never survive," they claimed. The idea of planting in such a harsh, arid environment seemed doomed from the start. Deserts are notoriously difficult to tame. Searing heat, freezing nights, sandstorms, and a severe lack of water make it nearly impossible for most plant life to take root. For decades, humanity has fought a losing battle against the encroaching sands. So, when China decided to tackle one of its largest deserts, the Kubuqi, with a method that seemed counterintuitive, the world wasn't just doubtful. They were openly mocking. The project was labeled a folly, a grand but foolish gesture. But China was determined. They weren't just planting trees. They were waging a war against the desert itself. So, what exactly was this crazy method that everyone laughed at? It wasn't as simple as just digging holes and dropping in saplings. This was a highly strategic, multifaceted approach born from years of research and desperation. The problem was massive. The Kubuqi Desert, the seventh largest in China, was expanding, swallowing up farmland, displacing communities, and causing massive sandstorms that reached as far as the capital, Beijing. The situation was dire. The solution had to be radical. The core of the strategy involved creating what are known as grass grids or straw checkerboards. Workers would lay out countless squares of straw, partially burying them in the sand to form a massive grid. These grids served a dual purpose. First, they stabilized the shifting sand dunes, preventing the wind from blowing away the topsoil. Second, they helped to trap precious moisture from the scant rainfall and morning dew, creating a more hospitable microenvironment for plants. Inside these protective squares, they planted specially selected, drought-resistant shrubs and grasses. These weren't just any plants. They were native species like licorice, sand willows, and sea buckthorn, plants that had evolved to survive in harsh conditions. Licorice, for example, has deep roots that help bind the soil and is also a valuable cash crop for local farmers. This brings us to another key element of the plan. It wasn't just about ecology, it was also about economy. By involving local communities and showing them how they could profit from planting, the project gained a powerful, motivated workforce. But planting in the sand is backbreaking work. To speed things up, Chinese innovators developed a new tool, a high-pressure water jet planter. A stream of water would drill a hole deep into the sand, and a sapling would be planted in just a few seconds. This simple but ingenious invention dramatically increased the efficiency of planting, allowing them to cover vast areas in a fraction of the time. It was a combination of ancient wisdom, modern technology, and sheer human will. For the first few years, progress was slow and arduous. The world's skepticism seemed justified. The scale of the challenge was immense, and the desert fought back with its full force. Sandstorms would bury newly planted areas, and periods of drought would test the resilience of even the hardiest plants. The international community watched, still convinced it was a futile effort. Media reports continued to frame it as a monumental waste of money and manpower. Imagine the pressure on the thousands of workers and scientists on the ground, toiling under the hot sun, with the world telling them they were destined to fail. Yet, they persisted. They patched the grids, replanted the saplings, and refined their techniques day after day, year after year. They were driven by a vision that others couldn't see, a belief that they could reclaim the land that was stolen by the sand. They weren't just planting trees, they were planting hope, one seedling at a time. It was a quiet, relentless effort, far from the eyes of the critics, a silent revolution taking place in the heart of the desert. Then, slowly but surely, something miraculous began to happen. Small green shoots started to dot the endless yellow landscape. The straw grids held firm, the saplings took root, and the desert's grip began to weaken. What was once a sea of sand started to show patches of green. Satellite images over the years began to tell a stunning story. The change was gradual at first, almost imperceptible. But as the years rolled on, the green expanded. After a decade, the transformation was undeniable. The areas that were once barren, shifting dunes were now covered in a carpet of vegetation. The desert hadn't just been held back, it was retreating. Over 1/3 of the Kubuqi Desert, an area of more than 6,000 square kilometers, had been covered in greenery. The once mocked project was now a breathtaking success. The laughter from the international community faded, replaced by stunned silence and then by admiration and regret for their earlier dismissal. They had witnessed the impossible become possible. The results were nothing short of spectacular, and they went far beyond just a visual change. The ecological impact was profound. The number of sandstorms drastically decreased, improving air quality in cities hundreds of kilometers away. Rainfall in the region actually increased as the new vegetation cover created a more humid microclimate, a cycle where green begets more green. Wildlife, which had long abandoned the area, began to return. Birds, insects, and even small mammals found a new home in the restored ecosystem. The social and economic impact was just as significant. The project created hundreds of thousands of jobs for local residents, lifting many out of poverty. The once unusable land was now generating income through ecotourism, solar farms built on the stabilized land, and the cultivation of medicinal herbs like licorice. The desert, once a symbol of poverty and despair, had become a source of prosperity and pride. A new Kubuqi model was born, a model that proved that fighting desertification and promoting economic growth could go hand in hand. 10 years after the world laughed, they were now lining up to learn. The project that was once called a fool's errand became a global case study for land restoration. Delegations from countries across Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia, nations facing their own desperate battles with desertification, flocked to the Kubuqi to see the miracle for themselves. China, once the target of skepticism, was now a world leader in combating desertification, sharing its technology and experience with the world. The United Nations Environment Program hailed the Kubuqi project as a pioneering eco-miracle, a blueprint for other nations to follow. The regret from those who had laughed was palpable. They had underestimated the power of long-term vision, technological innovation, and collective human effort. They had failed to see that what looked like a crazy idea was, in fact, a carefully planned, scientifically backed strategy. China had proven that with enough determination, humanity can not only stop environmental degradation, but can actively reverse it. The story of the Kubuqi Desert is a powerful lesson for all of us. It teaches us that we should never be too quick to dismiss bold, unconventional ideas, especially when it comes to tackling our planet's biggest challenges. It shows that environmental restoration is not just a cost, but an investment that pays huge dividends ecologically, socially, and economically. This incredible achievement wasn't the work of a single hero, but the collective effort of a government, businesses, scientists, and hundreds of thousands of ordinary people who dared to believe in a greener future. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we work together with nature, not against it. As we face growing environmental crises around the world, from climate change to biodiversity loss, the greening of the Kubuqi stands as a towering symbol of hope. It's a reminder that even in the most desolate of places, life can find a way, and that the future of our planet is not yet written. We have the power to change the narrative. So the next time you hear about a plan that sounds too ambitious, too crazy to possibly work, remember the story of the desert that bloomed. Remember the people who buried plants in the sand while the world laughed, and who, 10 years later, had the last laugh by creating a vibrant green oasis. It's a powerful story of perseverance and a beacon of hope for a greener world. Thanks for watching. If you were as inspired by this story as I am, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. What are your thoughts on this incredible project? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time.